Welcome to today's episode of Relationship and Life. We are still talking about the pillars of effective relationship, the 9 pillars, and today we'll be talking about the very last pillar. And before I go into that, I'll share a story in the Bible. I've referred to it before, but I'll just pick another aspect of the story. It's the story of King David and Bathsheba. In second Samuel chapter 12, chapter 11, we read the story of how David was supposed to go to war. He didn't go to war. He saw Bathsheba naked. He had sexual relations with her. She became pregnant to hide what he had done so that it doesn't become an open thing in Israel. He got Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, to be killed in battle. And once he killed Uriah, he now took Bathsheba, his wife. And Bathsheba became his wife and he began to live with him. Now, when this happened, God was not happy. And God sent Prophet Nathan to go and tell the King David, about it. And Nathan went to David. He said, listen, he told him a parable. He said, oh, there's a man who had this much sheep. And there was another one who had only one because he was big. He collected the one that had one. And David was very angry. He said, who is that man? I'm going to deal with him. And Nathan said, King, you are the man. You had this many wives and you still left your wives and you went to take the wife of this your soldier. Not only did you take his wife, you impregnated her and you killed her. And God said, because of what you've done, let me read from verse 10, 2 Samuel chapter 12. I'll read from verse 10 to 12. 2 Samuel chapter 12 from verse 10 to 12. And therefore the sword will never depart from your house, because you have despised me and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Verse 11. So says God, behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in the sight of the sun. For you did it in secret, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. Here we see God punish David for what he did secretly. Now, the last pillar of effective relationship is the pillar of punishments. And we spoke about rules the last time, and we said rules have consequences. If you live in line with the rules, you get rewarded. If you break the rules, you get punished. So David broke the rule. He broke trust with Uriah. Uriah was a soldier. Uriah trusted David. David sent for him after he impregnated his wife that, oh, go and rest with your wife. Uriah didn't do it. And because if he did not sleep with his wife, you could not hang the pregnancy on him, David arranged for Uriah to be killed. So in that case, David had broken the trust that this guy had on him, and God had to punish him. He had taken somebody else's wife and all that. So the punishment was this. God said, listen, what you did in secret, I will bring it out publicly. Number one, there will be problems in your family. Number two, as you took this man's wife, they will take your wife and they will also defile your own wife publicly. And if you know the story, if you read further down 2 Samuel chapter, down 2 Samuel, you see the fact that Absalom actually did this to his father David. I said when we're looking at the rules that you don't break rules, that rules actually break you. A lot of times we think we can circumvent rules, we can break rules, but the truth is this, rules break us. And we see this in the life of David, that David thought he had broken the rule, he thought he had escaped, but we saw the punishment come out and it was really bad. Every relationship that must thrive must have punishment. There must be the consequences of wrongdoing. If every time you do wrong, nothing happens, what you are doing is that you are establishing a bad behavior. And once you establish bad behavior, what happens ultimately is usually worse than the initial punishment. So when God created man in the garden, he said, listen, don't eat of this fruit. If you eat it, I will punish you. And the punishment will be, you will die. You can't be holier than God. If God punishes wrongdoing, then we too must. That every relationship carries consequences. Now, the punishment is not some corporal punishment of doing that. But what I'm saying is this. Every relationship, in any relationship that will thrive, there must be some form of consequences for wrongdoing. There must be some form of consequences. I'm not saying now, and it's important we don't take this too far. Your wife does something wrong to you, and I say no, I'm because the consequence is that I must separate from you. No. What I'm saying is this: that you must know that God does not support wrongdoing, and there are consequences to wrongdoing. So now, if my child does something wrong to me now, I can't disown my child. But the child knows that, oh, if I've done this against daddy, there's a consequence. Maybe he will tell me not to do this, maybe he won't allow me watch TV, maybe he will not take me to this, but there is a consequence. And in every relationship that must strive, there must be a consequence for wrongdoing. We'll take a break now and we'll continue on this after the break. Please don't go away.
Experience God's life, light, and love as you join our church family this Sunday at the Helpers House. Venue, Koti Event Center, 171 Bagada Oworonshoki Expressway, beside EcoBank, opposite UPS, First Pedro Bus Stop, Bagada, Lagos. Time, 9:30 a.m. The decision on whom to marry is perhaps one of the most important decisions that you can make in life. Unlike any other decision you make in life, the decision on whom to marry has a far-reaching direct impact on your life. Sadly and unfortunately, most people fail to prepare adequately for this all too important life decision. In this book, Before You Say I Do, by Adeniyi Adekunle, you will find points to consider before proceeding to the marriage altar and down-to-earth practical questions to ask yourself before saying, I do.
Welcome back. We are still talking about the pillars of effective relationship, and we are looking at the final pillar, which is punishment. And what we said earlier is this, that for every relationship that will thrive, if you break the rules, there must be consequences, and the consequence is what we call punishment. God said this to Abraham in their own relationship. Genesis chapter 17 and verse 14. Genesis chapter 17 verse 14. And the uncircumcised, God was saying this to Abraham, and the uncircumcised male child, who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. Why? He has broken my covenant. When God was talking to Abraham, he said, listen, my covenant is this. I'll do this with you and do this. And what you need to do is this. Every child born in your house, or everyone bought in your house with your money, by the 8th day, they must be circumcised. That's what you need to do. Now, God is telling Abraham here is that if they do not get circumcised, I will punish them. And the punishment is this: I will cut them off from my people. They will not be they will have no benefit in me. So what I'm saying is this: if God punishes wrongdoing, if there are consequences, then in our own life too, there must be consequences of doing wrong. Now, there is repentance, there is forgiveness and all that. But what I'm saying is this: you must know that something has been done wrong. You don't pat wrongdoing on the back. There's another story in the Bible, the story of Eli. Eli was the priest in Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter thereabouts. And Eli had 2 sons. And these sons were very, very terrible kids. Very, very terrible. They would go to the church, steal food, abuse the women, desecrate the temple, do all sorts. And their father was hearing it. And their father would say, little children, what are you doing? I heard you are doing this is wrong. And that's what he was doing. At a point, God sent another prophet to tell him that, listen, Eli, your children are doing something wrong, and you know about it, and you are not doing anything about it. He said, if you don't do something about it, I'm going to deal with you and deal with your children. And you know what Eli said? Eli said, listen, God knows about his God. Let him do what he wills. And God said, you want me to do what I will? Fine. Now, Abraham did not correct his children. And we see a lot of that happening. Because you want somebody's favor, because you don't want to get in somebody's wrong book. They are doing things and you're not correcting. You're not bringing down. The Bible talks about leadership in Romans 13. He said the leader does not hold the rod in vain, doesn't hold the sword in vain. That what he's saying is, he's not saying cut off the head person's head. But listen, if there is something going wrong, punish the person. So Eli did not punish his children. By the time they went to war, God punished them so much that in one day, 2 generations of Eli's family died. His 2 sons died in one day. Eli fell back, died himself. His daughter-in-law died too. And worst of all, the enemy took the Ark of God's covenant. And that's what happens when something wrong is being done continuously and we do nothing about it. In any relationship that will thrive, understand that if there are rules, then there must be rewards for keeping the rules, and there must be consequences for breaking the rule. Whether you are the father, whether you are the husband, whether you're a wife, whether you're the head of a business and all that. Now, in one of the challenges we have in Africa is this: people do a lot of things wrong, and there seems to be no consequences to it. And what it does is that it builds a culture of wrongdoing. So people believe that they can do something wrong and there's nothing anybody can do against it. And what happens is that after a while, the whole place just becomes like a war zone. And God said to avoid this, wrongdoing must be punished. Now there's a place for forgiveness. When you confess your sin to God, you confess your wrongdoing to the person, and you correct your ways. But when there is nothing like that going on, then wrongdoing should be punished. Any relationship that would try, we must watch out for attitude, we must watch out for character. If there's anything wrong going on, it has to be punished. If you're not doing that, you are not being like God. And what you are doing is this: you are setting up a system for anarchy and terrible trouble. May that not be our experience in Jesus' name. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Relationship and Life. Please don't go away, in the sense that follow us, we'll still continue this series. Thank you very much and have a very lovely day.
I'm back, bigger and better. In a world full of pressures on all sides, many people experience some form of setback at some point or the other in life. While some setbacks can easily be overcome, many others can knock the best of men out of the game of life and bring them to a place where they never have the courage to get back up and fulfill their dreams and aspirations. In this book, I'm Bigger and Better by Adeniyi Adekunle, learn scriptural strategies that will help you turn setbacks into comebacks, help you rise every time you fall, and help you fulfill your dreams and aspirations.